Everybody is the same. We're all the exact same. Nobody is different. The world is what it is. It's just one big place for us all to hang out and, well, just copy each other, be the people we are, be robotic, and just follow the leader. But that's not really true, is it? Because we are all different. And some of us are big, some of us are small, some of us are just black, white, and we all have differences. But most of all, we give to this world in some way because we have skills, we have abilities. And what I'm looking at now is the ability to see the skills that we have within sport. I'm looking at skill acquisition frameworks and the periodization of that, and how actually that can be brought to bear within individual sports, and how it can actually help you to figure out whether a person is actually improving or not in sport. And if we can figure that out, well, then we can figure out how we can actually get ahead in sport, and how we can actually be productive, and how we can actually win, and not just win now, but win for a long time more. That then equals, in the professional realm, sporting success and money and income and fame and so on. But the thing about it is, can we actually really figure out an individual skill and a person's interaction with that skill and how they develop things? This is the larger question. And later on, you're going to see me try a skill and compare it to another way of doing the skill, so that you can see what I'm really talking about. That's a challenge for later on. But for now, I'm just looking at the measurements of skill acquisition and comparing them really to the measurements of all the things that are there in sport and athleticism. For example, what you have in a lot of sports, team sports, is a lot of measurements and measurement aids, such as the FIT type of system. FIT, for one, F stands for frequency. Now, okay, frequency is a really good thing because you've got the frequency of needing to do something very often in order to improve. And that makes perfect sense. If you are a fitness guru, you want to impart to people that you need to train very much every day or every other day. You need to do things regularly. You need to have that frequency, because if you want to be able to run 5,000 meters competitively, you need to be able to, first of all, obviously run it alone, but you need to be able to last the distance. And in order to last the distance, you have to make sure you do it. So you have to do it regularly. There's a frequency in that. But to compete against somebody, then you're going to have to do it against somebody as well in practice runs and so on. So that's the frequency. Then you've got the intensity. And intensity is really, really important, of course, because if you want to improve your times of, say, 5,000 meters, or let's make it even bigger, let's make it a marathon, that's a larger time frame. You're going to have to shave off seconds and maybe perhaps definitely minutes off the time in order to improve. If you want to go further, you're going to have further improvement. So there's going to have to be more frequency, of course, but also of training, that is, but also more intensity in how you train. Then you bring in the likes of the weather, and it's going to be another factor that's going to annoy you, certainly if it's a wet day or if it's a windy day, in regard to your particular training set, but also if it's you against a sunshiny day that you're not really expectant, and you've trained in the wind and rain and you're used to that, well, then the heat is going to overcome you, it's going to overpower you, it's going to challenge you in a different way. Not to mention a rainy sunny day with showers, or a day that has thunder, lightning, and all of that kind of stuff. Then there's the type. What type of training can you change? Now, I mentioned the weather already. Yes, for sure. You can go ahead and go overseas, like, for example, in my country, Samuel Sullivan, the long distance runner, she went overseas for a long time over to Australia. And because of the climate in Ireland, it was very murk and not so nice, overcast, not so hot. In training for Olympic Games that were in hotter weather, in hotter climates, she went to Australia to get used to that particular way of exercising. Then there's the timing. The time is really, really important. And again, I referred back to it there a second ago with regard to the timing of doing it every second day. Then there's the other systems, the sports system. You can look at sport, Well, first you can have specific training, so you need to be specified in the training you do. So you want to be very specific. If you're doing, say, soccer, and you want to do 5-a-sides because you have an 11-side game, but you tackle in a defensive unit of 4 or 5 people, then the 5-a-side is going to be very beneficial in that way. Then you need to have progress in your training, naturally enough. You want to progress, you don't want to just stand still. In the 5-a-side scenario, you're going to want to not just defend, but defend very well. So that today you might concede 2 goals, tomorrow 1 goal, and the next time maybe 0 goals. You want to improve and to show that you're improving. Then you have overload. We have to be very, very careful of training overload, and going back to the athleticism more so, and doing a lot of training. The difference between training every second day as opposed to every day is going to be huge over time. If you're looking at doing a marathon in a year's time, or even a 5k race, or even the likes of your training for soccer, the team training, the overload can be very, very physically demanding over time, over the space of the season. Then we have the ability or the opportunity really to reverse on your training. It's said that if you continue to train, say every day, do a little bit every day, of course you're going to improve, with of course the overload in consideration, taken into consideration, where you're not going to overload the training too much. Incrementally, you're going to improve. But if you stop, for example, in the time of lockdown, you're going to stop and not have the same training frequency, well then you're going to reverse back in your ability to be able to maintain that particular distance or speed and so on. But that also works for you going back into it again. You can actually get titrated up and get a little bit better. And the last piece, the T then of the sport, is tedious. You don't want the training to be tedious, you want it to be fun. And if this is all towards adopting a framework towards actually having like-minded scenarios and environments towards competition and exposure to the environment, the normal environment of matches, games, races, and so on. So it's about replicating that. Now that's very simply done in physical training, where we look at, we've given those examples of running races and playing matches. But what about skill acquisition? And this is where it becomes very tidy and tight. How can you measure skills? Skill happens with pace, with moments, with gracefulness, with not just motor ability of a person, but the ability for mentally something to click. It's a bit like chemistry between two people. When they meet, they just can't explain it, but there's a chemical reaction in some regard. Something happens in the brain that really just happens, and it's instantaneous, and sometimes people can't even explain. They have different words for chemistry between two people, like the light bulb moment, for example. But the light bulb moment for a person when they're using or adopting skill, actual raw skill in a sport, this flick, the ability to dribble past somebody, that sort of moment where you can get the ball past somebody, or the ability even in a tackle defensively to just get that hand up like Scottie Pippen. That's an amazing ability, that skill, that timing, and so on. So to measure that, it's not measurable. It hasn't been seen to be very effectively measured over time. It's so minute, it's so quick, it's so fast. So this is what we're looking at, and the best way is to keep all those things in mind. The fit type program, the sport type program that I mentioned, and try to adapt that in to that essential moment of a skill over time, so that you can attain a skill in sport. And that is how it's done. And that's why I looked at my own skill and tried to compare it from one particular version of using it with an environmental change, which is the ball and being outside and having different footwork and different balance, and comparing it with indoors and doing it in a different way. So you can see that there are differences. Visually, you can actually see what's being done in one particular skill and not in the other, but yet I was doing the exact same thing, and that's how minute and how tidy and how tight the time frame of a skill, or the acquisition of a skill, or the practice of a skill, can occur. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please subscribe. If not, well, please do in the future, because I'll be making more. Thanks if you have. up until now. Until next time, have a wonderful day.